we are.
I wish I had pancakes every morning for
I
breakfast.
do too, dude.
Man,
You're living my dream right now.
I know. I'm sorry.
Did you say it was your wife's idea or the kid's idea?
The kid's idea
Nice.
usually starts at the bottom and comes up.
Yeah, works its way up the chain of command.
Yeah.
Management didn't oppose that idea though.
No. But
That's good.
hash browns are a regular appearance in our house. Scrambled eggs. I do omelets sometimes for the kids.
I'm a big breakfast food person.
I love breakfast. It's my favorite genre of food.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, you can. It's very versatile. You can kind of go sweet. You can go savory. Probably because also you can have it with coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's a lot of freedom in breakfast.
Night breakfast is one of my favorite things on this earth.
What's night breakfast? Is that after dinner?
Like having breakfast foods for dinner.
Okay.
Like
Yes.
you make pancakes and make the whole breakfast smorgasbord
It's for dinner.
as dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. We do a quiche. I guess it's technically not a quiche because it's a crustless quiche.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be is that a frittata?
Yep.
Technically it's frittata, but we call it a quiche.
Whatever.
But we'll do that for dinner every now and then. And the kids love it.
Yeah.
What a disgrace on the art form to call it a. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Get it right?
I'm calling Gordon Ramsay. Someone's got to yell about that.
Oh no.
I
Man.
made it once and normally my wife makes it and I made it and I'm like, I'm throwing cream cheese in here. I'm just like doing all sorts of stuff. And it got in front of the kids. I have 2 girls, 7 and 6. And yes, they're kind of close in age, but anyways, I threw cream cheese in there and it was not okay. Everything was the same. Like everything else, I promise. Like the eggs, milk, cheese, like everything was the same. And then I added cream cheese and it was a no-go.
Bummer.
Bad.
That's funny.
No, Adam doesn't cook anymore.
That's why his wife makes the pancakes.
I'm the guy that changes things and it doesn't work.
Dad, that's not how we wanted
I want to
it.
try this. No, it's not broken. Don't fix it.
My dad was always that way. He'd always find some classic dish and just totally change it and make it not what it was supposed to be. Like
I think that's what dads are supposed to do.
Right.
like pizza-getti. That was one of his favorites. He would just put like cheese and pepperoni on spaghetti. and spaghetti sauce. So it was kind of like a mix like between like a baked spaghetti or something.
Big spaghetti
I don't
pizza
know.
thing.
That's so funny.
Pizza-getti. And then he has to come up with a name for it, like pizza-getti. So
Of course.
My mom growing up did put pepperoni in the spaghetti sauce.
Mm.
And now that you mention it, I kind of miss it.
it was good.
I might
mean,
have to do it, but it's not going to go over well.
It's going to be like the cream
It's not
cheese all
gonna
over
go
again.
well.
that's funny.
That's okay.
Well, welcome to the podcast. For
Yeah.
those of you who are listening, we switched it up a little. We were at the table for the first 3 episodes, and in
Mhm.
the name of consistency, we're not at the table because we're professional. So, no, it was just, we felt that being over here, this is where we recorded audio before we did film, and we felt being over here was a little bit more relaxed and natural for having a guest on. So, welcome to the podcast. The premise of the show is we drink coffee. We haven't poured it yet, but we drink coffee and then basically end the podcast when the coffee's gone.
And I want it.
Yeah, until it's gone. So,
Yep.
why don't you pour, Cole?
This feels like a ritual.
It is.
A little sacrilegious or something. I don't know. There's a candle.
There's a candle burning.
Some heresy going on.
Hopefully not, but
Give me your mug.
oh, Joel's got to come get some coffee too.
I already gave him
So-
some.
Oh, sweet.
Who made this coffee?
I made it. I brewed it. However,
Cole is the-
Quickwater roasted this coffee and imported the raw coffee fruit.
Imported the beans.
Correct.
And I've had Quickwater once,
Well,
and it was really good.
now it's going to be twice.
It's very good. It's very good.
We'll leave a little.
And they are a sponsor.
Hey,
So
I heard something about that,
we
so I
don't-
figured I'd say it.
we don't have to say not a sponsor.
Finally, we don't have to say that.
I'm just trying to butter up so that next time I go in there, maybe I'll be recognized.
Sure.
But I don't think that'll happen.
Maybe. I was editing the last video, and there's a spot when you're uploading to YouTube that you can check if there's a sponsored segment in the, and I check that button. So there's probably going to be like a little tag that pops up that says
For Quickwater?
sponsored.
Oh,
No,
so
it's
they
just
know that there's
so that
paid content.
YouTube knows that there's paid, some sort
Sure.
of endorsement. But I feel special because we get that little.
You got to do a little.
I'm all about the tags.
That's why we're shooting in 4K.
That's
so
why
it
we're
says-
shooting with 2 cinema
Tag
cameras
master.
and a photo. Yeah, because I'm a nerd.
That's so
I
awesome.
mean, if you're gonna do it, right?
We're gonna do it.
So we have on Adam Gregory. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam is a good friend of ours. Met through some mutual friends. You guys met through Berkeley, though.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Kirk.
yeah, Adam's in the film industry and is co-owner of Noble Story Company. And they're doing a lot of really cool things that we'll definitely jump into. But yeah, we're just super stoked to have you on, man, and thankful that you could make the time.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys are really cool guys, and I love what you're doing.
Thanks,
And-
dude.
We love what you're doing, and you're a cool guy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How'd I do? How's the coffee?
It's really good.
Amen.
It's legit.
That makes Steven proud.
That was Zambia.
Zambia. We are done with the Zambia bag. So tune in.
So what?
2 weeks.
This was
See-
Zambia.
Yes. Yeah.
So I got the last of the bag. That's like the worst part.
Well, so I'm such a nerd that I keep my coffee in airtight.
Oh,
Containers.
Okay.
So
I was gonna
hopefully
say it
it's
doesn't
still,
taste like the end of the bag.
right. Yeah. So I'm just, yeah.
I need to learn a few things. I was kind of watching what you were doing, and I'm like, I use a Chemex, and I'm not doing half the things Cole's doing.
I'll
This is
teach you.
really
I'll
good.
teach you my ways.
Cole is considering investing in a Pelican case just for his coffee setup, just for all of you
Yeah.
wondering.
I
Bro,
am.
yes.
So my vision is I want
might
to
sponsor that. Yeah.
please, I'll start a GoFundMe for this. I want to be able to just be able to for the podcast to be able to take it wherever I want, but I have the Fellow Stag now, and that's just a nice kettle, but I want to be able to take that and the Chemex to brew for like multiple people, and a V60 if it's just me, but being able to take that with me wherever to make coffee.
Cole wants 3 brewing methods at all time.
And then I'm gonna buy like the arm like espresso machine, and then have
What's that?
So it's called the
I'm
Flare.
envisioning Popeye or something. You're just like
No,
constantly pulling this
It's
down.
cooler than
with-
Popeye.
You're like, one arm is huge.
It's called the Flare Neo, and it's like pressure espresso. So it's
Okay.
not like a machine that has like a boiler or anything. You have to do all of that, but it makes great espresso. I wasn't actually considering getting it. I want an actual like countertop nice espresso. That's the top of the mountain. That's what we're on our way to.
It's pretty expensive for what it is, isn't it?
The Flare is actually cheap because it's so
Just mechanical. Yeah.
Versus like if you're gonna
It's-
get like a La Marzocco like at home machine, you're paying like $13,000 or something.
It
stupid.
looks like a water well.
yeah,
pump,
like you're pumping water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
and you
Well,
just
so-
press it through.
I'll come back on if you buy that.
Okay. All right.
Deal.
Deal.
But we have to do it on camera.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just-
That sounds great.
oh, man.
Well, yeah. So,
That's great.
we just really want to hear your story and kind of, who you are. We love to have guests on to just talk about what's on your heart, what's on your mind. We obviously look up to you in a lot of ways and think that people could benefit from just hearing your journey as a person, as a professional, honestly, however you want to frame it. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any questions. I guess like who are you, and like how would you pitch yourself?
Oh,
And you're
man.
so used to pitching Noble, but who are you, and
Yeah,
where are you from?
I guess since I can do a kind of the abbreviated long version ish. So born and raised in Michigan, so I'm a native to where we are right now, I guess. And but I grew up on a asparagus farm. People kind of like hearing about that. I didn't like asparagus most of my childhood, and then I finally realized that it was actually good. I think I was
And good for you.
That's convenient
for
too.
you.
yeah.
And yeah, so that's a thing. I grew up, my brothers were in a band. They very musical household. I kind of picked up, I was never like a master of anything, but I was like, oh, I played drums, I played guitar, I played sort of piano. I took some piano lessons. That wasn't the best experience of my life, but it's funny, we have a piano now and I'm actually kind of enjoying it. So that's cool.
It's a really cool instrument.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I love music, and I think I kind of at one point I wanted to go into music because I was seeing what my brothers were doing. They were in a band and they had a couple albums and were touring around. They were actually getting paid to do it. Not great, in my opinion. It sounded amazing, in your little kid mind, you're like, wow, they're like crushing it, but it's like super unsustainable. But that kind of fell apart on them when they went to college and different things. And I had also, I grew up a Christian, became a Christian at a young age, and was in a sweet youth group. And we did crazy trips. Like we would go to Canada and canoe for like a week in the wilderness and portage all your stuff, like carry everything in.
Man.
Hiking in Wyoming for a week. Caving, canoeing down the Muskegon River. I've done that twice from Big Rapids all the way to the lake, and
Wow.
just some wild stuff. And my parents were really involved in that, which is super cool. Just looking back, just really blessed that I had parents that were super involved in that space. And I kind of had this heart for missions and overseas missions, but I kept liking film and music, and I think I kind of like I had like a video 1 and video 2, I guess, kind of leading into like the professional side, if you will, a little bit. I took video 1. I knew more than the teacher. I guarantee it's like at least the same, I mean, they were like obviously way more mature than I was, but as far as like from the gear side, like I was just figuring it out. Loved those classes. I think I literally ran to them in high school, even though you're not supposed to run in the halls.
You rebel.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. Running in the halls.
Wild.
Did
Did you run with scissors?
No. No, definitely not.
They were safety scissors. They weren't the
The scissors in Premiere.
Yeah. Well, what was Premiere? We had like Pinnacle Peak Pit Studios or something. It was like awful.
The first iteration of iMovie.
Yeah. It was like Windows Movie Maker, I think, was the best thing we had back then. I guess backing up before high school, it was the Lego Studios. Like Legos came out with this Lego Animation Studio Movie
like
Maker
stop motion
Lego
stuff?
set. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It had a camera in it and it had software.
Oh, sick.
And it had this book that I still have that was like written by Steven Spielberg by Lego, and it was like super inspiring. Like you can make movies too, and it
Holy cow.
yeah, it had like a dinosaur in it and a city that you could like animate and make the city fall over and like all this cool stuff. And I just spent hours, messing
knocking
around
over
with
the
that.
city.
Yeah, messing around in my room and dreaming. And the videos were never anything like what they were in the book because they weren't using the same software.
You're like, I got
This is all marketing.
jets.
Like you guys are using a different camera because mine doesn't look this good. It's like the GoPro promo videos, then you get a GoPro and you're like, what? This doesn't look like
This
this.
doesn't look at all.
and then you watch the promo again and you realize that half the shots actually have the little disclaimer that this is a GoPro and this isn't, you're like, oh, okay.
That was on an arm craned
Yeah,
down.
that was like But so I had kind of that background. I wish, I loved Indiana Jones and Star Wars, the originals, and always kind of like my mind is always blown, and I love behind the scenes stuff. But I was in Rodney, Michigan, and it's almost like I couldn't dream that big. Looking at Hollywood, and just at the time, like, gear wasn't possible. Like, I didn't have a phone that could shoot anything. There wasn't even a phone. It was literally a cord into the wall still. My first camera was, I think, was it 6 megapixels or 3? I know it was like at least 3.2 or something. So that was like mind blowing, like, wow, I can do anything, so I'd run around and take photos of that. But I kind of suppressed that and suppressed the music stuff. And wanted to do missions work. I think wanted to, and also felt kind of guilted or kind of pushed toward that. Not by anyone in particular, just the church in general was kind of like,
this is what you do with your life.
This is what you do if you want to be.
If you really want to be a Christian. If you really want
to be that. And I have a personality that's I want to make people happy. I don't want to let people down. I have this heavy responsibility part of my personality I take things very serious, but I'm not like a serious person, but like take it very like with a lot of weight. Like if I said I was going to do this, or if I'm like into this, I better do it. And so with that kind of mindset, I'd seen my brother do some missions trip kind of stuff, and he went to Mexico and had a good experience with this organization. I'm like, hey, why don't I do that? I'll try that for 3 months. And but my mom, before this is like end of high school, she's like, you need to like sign up for a degree, something. You need a backup plan. You need to, and I'm looking at the pamphlet. I'm like, my dad taught manufacturing and engineering at Ferris State, so I'm like, okay, I'll go there.
Yeah.
I can get some cheaper credit type stuff, and I wasn't like unmotivated. I was a very motivated person, but not. I didn't need to go to USC, or I didn't need to go to MSU or State or anything. I didn't need that to validate myself. So I'm like, I'll go to Ferris. And I kept looking at the video program. It was like the only thing I could stomach. And I didn't like math. I had to retake Algebra 2 in high school. And because I got like a C, I technically didn't have to, but it was like, I obviously didn't know what I was doing. So I needed to retake it.
Just getting by.
So it's kind of like, oh boy, like I'm doing really well on everything, but math is not, something's not clicking. So, but video in college only had like one math requirement.
You're like, yes.
It was basically Algebra 2 again. And I'm like, okay, I've done this twice. I can do it again. I can do it a third time and I'll make it.
Third time's a charm.
I can do this. And, and
I remember this test.
Yeah. And I liked Lego Movie Maker, and I liked Video 1, Video 2 in high school. And, our youth group would do movie nights where people would make movies one time a year, and then we'd all play them. And I'd like, win first or second place with that. And, so that was kind of like, it was something I was achieving at, I was winning at, I guess, or getting some response from people watching stuff that I made. And so I signed up for that, but then I went to Mexico for 3 months. And when I got down there, I'm like, hey, they're all asking, what are you doing after this? What are you, are you going to college, whatever, for everybody. And I'm, I signed up for video production in college. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And they like shove this, it was a terrible camera in my hands. They stick this like really bad camera in my hands. And then, I'm off like filming stuff, and I got to film at some like Awana program in Mexico that other people weren't invited to. and I got to put some promos together, and we watched them, and it was Pinnacle Peak editing software, Pinnacle software. I forget what it was. Super
I
bad.
honestly have no idea.
It was really bad. Like
Man.
in Windows Movie Maker and this one, if you wanted to add music and a sound effect, you had to export the whole video and bring it back in because there was only one sound layer. So for everything you would, and if you wanted like a graphic to fade on, because there was only one graphic layer too, or something, it was ridiculous. So you'd have like 5 exports, and then you'd want to change one thing in the video, and you'd have to like go back and export.
Because it's all burned in.
It's all burned in. It's so bad.
Oh man.
But I coming out of that, I went, came back home and did my 4 years at Ferris, and I just fell in love with it. I loved video production, but I wish I could tell you I had like this massive identity crisis between missions and video production. I was just torn. A lot of the message from this organization was the same as the church. It was, like nothing else matters basically, but telling people about Jesus, like go into all the world and all, the Great Command, it's really good stuff and it's true. It's just pulled out of context sometimes to motivate people to work for them because they need more people or something. And it feels,
or I think the other side of that too, in addition to that, is getting other people. Like there's so many people that are so passionate about missions, and when that is like presented in a way that is backed up by biblical truth of like, well, this is what Jesus did, like it's really hard to refute that. And I have the same personality too. It's like I have nothing else to like combat that, so this must be what I have to do with my life, so I get that. Absolutely.
That's a really good way to put it. And when you're in high school or early college, it's hard to, you're
still impressionable.
You're in a very impressionable age. And so I wish more people at that age, and I wish I would have articulated what I liked more too. Like I didn't vocalize it very well. So I didn't have the people that knew me best even speaking into that super well either, because they didn't, know that, very well.
Sure.
But, fortunately God's patient and it worked out and is working out. But I went through my 4 years and I had to do a 6-month internship, and that's when I ended up down in Grand Rapids. And I tried to leave Michigan. I was married married to my wife, Jessica. We've been married a couple of years at this point. And, we were both kind of ready for an adventure, I think. So we were like, hey, I had to do this internship, and I was like applying to this place in Dallas and just trying to get out of town, and they didn't respond in time. And my professor kept saying, there's this company in Grand Rapids called Storytelling Pictures, and they kind of do some faith stuff. Maybe I'm at a secular college, but my professor could tell that that's where I was coming, wanted. And he could, tell that they were doing stuff. And so he kept saying, you should check out storytelling. You should check out storytelling. And I was like, no, I want to. And, I ended up doing an interview down here, and John Evans, one of the partners there, was just sat down and really kind of, he saw me. Like he could tell I was like this young kid that was passionate, and he really took me under his wing. And so I took an internship there, and I had to do 6 months full time, and I was getting paid like $500 a month. It was hilarious. But that was a blessing. Most of the students that I was with didn't get anything. Like, that was a rare thing. So it sounds like they were being frugal on me. They were actually spending money on me that no one else was. Really, I think like out of 13 people, maybe 2 or 3 got paid anything for their internship. Wow. And one of them was my friend, and he got paid nothing during, and he did such good work that they just were like, we have to pay you something. So it sounds ridiculous. It's like, but it was actually like they were doing the honorable thing, honestly. Yeah. And man, they didn't have a job for me, but they didn't want to let me go. So I stayed another, I think it was like 10 months total. And their bookkeeper accountant was like, you have to hire him. You can't keep doing this. It's like legally, or we basically
Yeah.
we can't just like have him coming into the office every day and not have him be an employee. So they ended up hiring me, and something really cool happened. It was like, I think it was as I was an intern. It was kind of in that transition period. A nonprofit called Wycliffe Associates called, and they do Bible translation around the world. And next thing I knew, I was filming in Papua New Guinea in the remote Solomon Islands in the middle of nowhere, Bible translation stories. And I, everyone probably listening to this is probably like, hey, yeah, God like answered your like both things. Like, you're a filmmaker. Remember Mexico? You had a camera in your hand, and like, like God's using that. That's what He wants you doing. He wants you doing film and using that for His purposes and what He wants. And it started clicking then. I wish it was like this super like, aha, like this is it. Like I'm supposed to be here. But it set in because they were a repeat client every year. There was like one big trip every year. Went to Thailand, Indonesia, China, Papua New Guinea. That was the first one. Is pretty Nepal was a big one. That was pretty wild.
All over the place.
Yeah, all over the place, and these crazy, and so like God gave me what I wanted, I guess, and like what I was going after, and he also like let me have my child, like not even just like let me have my childhood dream of like film that I was kind of suppressing, but like He gave me that in the first place, and He was kind enough to kind of let me figure that out and not like He's letting me do what I love doing, which is it's like really cool. It's like, wow, like this thing I was, so if I can like speak to people that are trying to figure out what they want to do in the world, and they're conflicted about, well, but God probably wants me doing this, or He might want me miserable doing this, because then that means I'm sacrificially serving. And it's like, do you like audio? Do you like video? Do you like numbers a lot? Do you like,
Cooking?
Do you love cooking? Like, are you an entrepreneur? Are you super passionate? Are you really good at making money? You just like love putting a deal together.
Love business.
You love the business side. You love all those things.
Artist stuff. I think about Kirk too.
Yeah, like, do you love painting? Do you love creating? Like inventing stuff, designing stuff? Do you like all these things? I'd tell you, just like, you were made that way on purpose. Don't run away from that. Like, stop running away from it. Just start doing those things. And maybe it'll be your career, maybe it won't, maybe it'll be part of it, but it wasn't an accident, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. You like free you up, and enjoy it, push into it, become the best you can at it. And if you're good at making money, make a ton of money and do really cool things with it, and employ a ton of people and treat them super well, and run your business. I've been leading this group called the Faith Driven Entrepreneur Group, and we meet once a month, and it's super cool just seeing like business people rethinking their mind of like, I have this skill and I have this talent and all these people that are working for me. How can I just like change that a little bit and do something with it? So, anyways, I guess to where I am now, where did I leave?
Well,
off?
you were at storytelling for the 10 months they hired you.
Yeah, so I stayed on there, and it was John mentored me a lot. I learned a lot from the other business partner, Corey, and had some really cool coworkers that I learned a lot from, and they've gone on to do some pretty amazing things. But a couple people left in front of me, and then I became their senior editor and main cinematographer for several years. And kind of hit the top of what I could do there. And I had this growing dream in me of doing feature films and actually creating the content, um, not just telling other people's stories, but actually crafting that story and making a story come to life. And um, yeah, I've wanted to make movies for a long time, and all the gear was making it possible, and just seeing a lot of success from the independent side. Going, oh, okay, I could actually do that potentially. That's really cool. And so, and I also wanted to film more, and I was doing probably 75% editing versus, but that's just what happens at a corporate production house.
Right.
Is you shoot one day and then you edit for 5, or for 4, you edit for the rest of the week, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just part of how it works. So, um, I was getting tired of that, and yeah, so I took off and I started my own. Yeah, I'll take a little bit. Yeah, so I took off and started my own kind of. It wasn't a production company. Started a company called Gregory Visuals, and it was just my cinematography brand, and started shooting, shooting for all the different, not all, but companies in town. Still film for storytelling, but got to branch out and do some cool projects. And um, yeah, I did that for almost. I just closed it down, which is kind of nuts. But that's been about a 6 year. So storytelling was like just shy of 6. Gregory Visuals was 6 years. So 12 years. Um, kind of post college is where I'm at right now with my career and what I'm doing. Um, and this film bug, when I was about it was a year or so before I left storytelling, I went to this conference called ICVM, International Visual, no, International Christian Visual Media. Gotta get that straight. I saw a pre-screener of a movie. It was called, it was one of the Kendrick Brothers movies, War Room or something. I got invited to like a pre-screener at Celebration, and the lady that introduced it, Chris Fear, um, I it got done, and I'm like, and I was like looking at my wife. I'm like, I gotta like talk to her. She's like, yeah, like, and I like jumped over the railing and like ran up to her before other people did, and was like, how do I get into this? Like, how do I do? I want to do that. And um, she's like, you need to go to this conference, and I'll tell you what. Like, here's my email. I had no business cards or anything because I'm like working for another company, but I had this like burning dream. I had no demo reel or anything. She's like, send me what you've done. I'm like, oh, I got nothing. I was like literally writing it down on a napkin. It was not good. And she's like, yeah, send me your stuff and I'll pass it on to some people I know. But go to this conference. And I get home and I look up the conference. I'm like, this website's terrible. I don't know if I like it. Just was not hooking me. But she said you need to go. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend $1,500. Since I had flown all over the world, I had a bunch of frequent flyer miles, so I had a free flight down to Florida.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, I can afford the conference fee. I have a free flight. I just need to do this. She said to do it, and she connected me with a couple people, and I went, and I printed off my business cards at this point, and I go, and she basically, what am I trying to say? Basically, like I get down there and I'm like pounding business cards, and it's not like really going anywhere. But I meet this guy, Andrew Taraskis, there, and um, we were in the same boat. Like he was in the corporate space. He's out in Lodi, California, and he's working for his dad's company and doing some really cool stuff, like really kind of pushing the creative boundaries. Um, you know, building out a small studio and just shooting some cool corporate client stuff. but kind of maxing out where he was and wanting to do film. And I was in the same boat. So we like hit it off. And one of the days, it was funny. We went to Disney World one day with everybody, and it was like this whole big, like, I actually had like called and tried to get out of it to save $50 because I knew the ticket price. And I'm like, can I sit? Because I'm just like broke going to this thing, and I'm taking vacation days to go, you know. and they're like, no, it's a part of the price. And I'm like, oh. So
Dang.
I've gone to Disney World twice against my will, which is kind of funny. I mean, not like totally, but like kind of like I wouldn't have. I didn't choose it, so it's just really funny. And then I meet Andrew, and he's like, "I love Disney World." It's like really funny. There's always got to be one person,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
But we get there, and he ended up buying my hamburger one day, and they're like $15-$20 hamburgers, and that kind of won me over because I'm broke, right? So he's like speaking my language.
You do anything.
I'll do whatever you want. I'll follow you wherever you go.
Feeding a stray dog.
It's like it's stuck with me.
That's awesome. Was the burger good?
It was good, I think.
Maybe not worth $15 worth.
Probably not $15. Yeah, it was better because it was free.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't. Nobody like hired me. I came home and I was kind of like, nobody's like hiring me on their next movie. I didn't get the big job. Nothing really changed. But I had this new friend, and we call every now and then. And a year goes around, and it's like, I'll go if you go again. Kind of like, it was like this very non-committal, I guess I'll go again. And we went, and it really like cemented our friendship. We just like really hung out that next year, and did some short films together. And then just realized like, wow, like we're going in the same direction. We need to partner up. And we took a long time before we actually put ink on a page. And that's something I'd recommend to anybody is like, don't just like rush into partnerships. I've seen them crumble and fail. I've seen partners not talk to each other anymore for years. And after they split, and it's not good. And so I didn't want to do that. And so we reached out to a lot of mentor people and asked advice. And some people said, don't do it. Some people said, do it. So some people just cautioned us. So, but we partnered up. We started a company called 2A Entertainment. And Andrew had a friend that was doing a 6-part PureFlix original series out in Lodi, California, where he lived. And it was like a no-budget project. By no budget, there technically was a budget, but it wasn't.
Minuscule.
Like the lowest you think it is, like go lower.
Go lower.
But it was an opportunity. We all kind of thought, hey, it's an opportunity to get a credit and do something. And I had, my Red camera, so I just like donated it to the project to get our name in the credits. I was like, hey, Andrew, like I have this camera and stuff, and they kind of need one. What if you're already working on it? Why don't I come out for a bit and I'll bring my camera and we'll just kind of say, hey, we want associate producer credit for this because of the donation we're making in your time and everything. And the producer went for it. So we're like, oh, sweet. Now we're,
Producing.
We're producing now.
You're in.
Yeah, we're in, and, kind of that's another lesson to learn. Just like use what you got, like what opportunities you have, what gear you have, whatever you have, like leverage that and just like stop looking for everybody else's opportunity they have, but look at what you got right in front of you.
Right.
Like for you guys, we're sitting in a really cool music studio and you're like leveraging that because you do some work here. So that's kudos.
We're doing it.
You're doing it.
We're trying.
Look at us go.
Yeah. But I guess all that to say, we made it, we finished it, and never showed our wives. I don't think my wife still hasn't seen it. I watched it through once, I think. Poor Andrew was boots on the ground for the whole thing. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of work on that, and we begged, borrowed, and pleaded to get it done. And PureFlix released it on their platform. Didn't make one public announcement about it. It just disappeared. It's gone. It's on there. You could go sign up and watch it, but it's just there. And the story's not, worth anything really. if you watch it, it's not going to change your life or make you think about your relationships or do
Have an
anything.
impact.
There's not really any, it's not like negative, but it's not really positive either.
Mm.
Like it's not really doing anything.
Mm.
And we're just like, man, like we're like losing money making this thing basically. So like why we could do that again, you know, because Pureflix wanted more stuff. They like offered us, you know, like 3 pitcher deal or something, you know, and this other guy, they wanted him to make more. But you look at the money and it's like we can make way more money and actually hire people and pay them what they're worth if we just did corporate stuff instead of basically running over everybody.
Yeah.
Like what's the point? And for content that ultimately gets buried and we don't even want to show our families. Like what?
Yeah.
That's not worth
There isn't
doing.
a point. Yeah.
It's not
There's no
worth
point.
investing in.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
worth anything. Like I might as well just, you know, go home and, you know, do something simpler. That's honestly way less stressful.
Right.
And so Andrew and I were just like, man, if we want to do this right, we got to change something. Like, and the biggest thing we're looking at, you have to have like really good stories and really good scripts. And if those aren't good, then like money doesn't follow, distribution deals don't follow, talent doesn't want to get involved. Like kind of like everything falls apart from that. Like if the story isn't good and if the script's not really good, then everything kind of dominoes down. But it takes money to get good IP and get a good script written and option those rights and those things. And so we're just like, okay, what do we do? Realizing we need to raise some money. We need to do this right. If we're going to do this, let's go all in and do this right. And Andrew had read this like business book, like the balanced independent producer or something handbook. And that had a lot of modeling like this, like get a slate of projects, get financing behind those, spend money on development, and then leverage that against, you know, to get production financing from a bank or gap financing and all these things. So we're like, okay, let's like forget everything that happened in the past. Let's like start a new company, you know, basically start a new company that we can bring investors in. So that's when Noble Story Co. started. And it's funny because we actually, it was originally just going to be 2A Entertainment, and we were starting a separate company that was going to house like this like slate of projects that nobody was going to know the name of it. And then Andrew called it Noble Story Co. And we were both like, that's way better name than like our actual company. And we realized, you know what? Like, it's okay. Like, 2A Entertainment's our partnership that solidifies us. And we're going to have 2A own some of this. And we're going to bring investors into this thing that's way bigger and better than both of us. That's going to allow way, way better stories. And this like Noble Story idea was birthed. And so we started in March of 2020. So
Great.
everyone
timing.
remembers what happened in March of 2020.
Oh boy.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
What was it?
3 years ago?
That thing that stopped everything.
I don't know. I just got here this morning. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I woke up and
Yeah.
Made pancakes and
yeah. But yeah, like anyways, like we were able to raise enough money to get some projects going and you know, survived the first year, if you will, and then yeah, just we're still, you know, projects getting launched and greenlit, but we're really close now, which is really cool.
You guys have been working really hard.
Yeah, we've been working super hard these last like 2-3 years now, and we have really great scripts now and getting a lot of momentum on projects. So
That's awesome.
Doing
Yeah.
projects that, like, in contrast to that one experience you had for Pureflix, that actually have a point, and that was part of the whole brand of Noble, right? Is like
Intentionality.
even beyond the fact that they were good business decisions. Like, you want to show people these films. They're movies that people will pay to go see because they are impactful. They're not just blah.
Yeah. So it's you know, we kind of, there's a couple things we harp on. Our lead investors, Dana and Bill Wichterman, they come out of the political sphere, and like Bill spent some time in the White House, and Dana's done like some foreign policy stuff. She won't talk about it. I don't know what all they do.
Secrets.
I don't really ask, but they're wonderful.
You don't want to know too much.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be a liability.
Yeah. They're wonderful people that have gotten behind us, and they, Dana's our board chair now, and just really, our advisory board. And she and her husband co-founded this organization called Wedgwood Circle. Not the Wedgwood in Grand Rapids, a different Wedgwood. There is a Wedgwood here in Michigan.
Yep.
Completely different. But it's an organization that brings patrons and investors together with creatives. And it's specifically, their website doesn't say like Christian creatives, but they want to celebrate good, true, and beautiful in the world. And that's exactly what Noble's like doing. Like, we want to celebrate the good, true, and the beautiful, and we want to make art that's excellent, that's well received, that's kind of like Philippians 4:8 stuff. Good, true, lovely,
think
noble.
about such
Think about
things.
that stuff. Like, we should make that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd say that can go for anything. If you're designing something or building a business that's, structures and things, like, you can apply that verse. And so that's been really cool. Like, we've had people get behind us from that organization, and we've kind of really adopted their mindset, because they've been around for 15 years, and they've been articulating what's been in our head for a while. And we're just like, wow, that's
better language.
That's language.
Yeah, that's the language. And Bill likes to say, culture is upstream from politics, and if you want to influence culture, you need to be in the entertainment space, and you need to be influencing culture. And so we're not a political company, but we're not the biggest fans of where our world's headed. So let's tell more noble stories and be a part of that drive for good. And I think another, Socrates, I think it was technically another guy that said it, but he gets quoted for it. If you give me the songs of a nation, it matters not who writes its laws. And that's pretty profound. You could say, give me the movies and those things of the nation. It doesn't matter who's writing the laws, because that's what drives what's happening.
Were they shooting on film back then, or?
I don't know what they were
Socrates.
doing.
I'm just joking.
Socrates. Yeah.
Slide projectors.
Yeah.
Flannel graph.
Yeah.
Give me the flannel graphs of a nation.
Yeah.
The stone tablets of a nation.
It makes me think of Princess Bride. Socrates.
Yeah.
Morons. But I've been talking for forever. That's where we're at. We're on this trajectory to bring, good, true, and noble into the world. Good, true, and beautiful. And our medium is movies and shows.
Yep. That's great.
And it goes beyond that. It's how we treat people. And the filmmaking world is notorious for just like trashing people's lives to get their project made.
Yeah.
And so I know we're not going to get that all right. Hopefully we can kind of help right some wrongs in that world. You see a lot of union fights going on right now and things like, you wouldn't need all that if everybody just like treated people right.
It's a pretty depraved industry as a whole. I mean, that's not like contradicted by anybody. Like, everybody knows Hollywood's notorious for pushing the envelope, and like you were saying, influencing culture upstream from politics, and it trickles down. But I mean, you look at influencers nowadays and like look at their lives. Like, not everybody, but
the majority,
maybe the ones that you see the most. Yeah, it's like
absolutely.
It's no wonder.
Yeah. Well, and there's a pretty crazy statistic. I'm sure these numbers are probably already outdated, even just from a half a year ago. But Netflix, it's each day 203 million hours of content is consumed.
Unreal.
That's so much content.
Unreal.
And
just on Netflix.
Yeah, just Netflix.
That's not TikTok. That's not YouTube. That's,
And Netflix is becoming like one of many. They're like, all these services.
Yeah. And it's lifetimes and it's so
insane.
many years of people.
Oh.
I just sucked 1 year of your life away.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
to keep quoting that movie. It's just so, it's Bridgerton and The Witcher are running society basically, and
Yep.
I'm not saying everything on Netflix is bad. There's
No.
good stuff on there. I just want more good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to reignite the appetite for noble in our world, like
Right,
noble
right.
stories. Like, can't that be what people desire? It's
Not
kinda
just like cheap entertainment, really.
yeah, like, can we get back like craft coffee? Can we
Mhm.
get people to stop drinking the commodity?
Well,
Mm.
I also think about like scripture, like protecting your eyes, like protecting what you see, and like
Mhm.
so much of that, like on like Netflix was in hot water for the child
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like not only that, but even like Game of Thrones. Like,
Mhm.
sorry, all you Game of Thrones fans, but like I haven't watched it. I've just heard how gnarly it is, and like all of that stuff, and that's not things that are noble and pure and lovely, like we were talking about, like.
Yeah.
And I think it is really cool that, you're going against culture by wanting to create those things. Like that is countercultural in and of itself. And then if the culture of everyone on film set and everyone from pre through post and delivery, like
Mhm.
is all maybe not all 100% on the same page, but that culture is being set and then influencing each part of the stage. You guys are swimming upstream,
Mhm.
which is the way of Jesus, It's really cool.
That's cool.
Well, it's like little, uh, little by little, but it starts on like a top down trickle thing, right? And then even like producing a film is ministry to even the people on set. It's
Right.
like, how are these producers actually valuing us? Like,
It's pouring into
Yeah.
each stage.
like because film is actually a pretty blue collar industry. Like you see all of the
It
actors
really
and stuff.
is.
It's basically, it's like stagehands. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are they just show up and they want to work,
Mhm.
and it's
We
very
get paid at the end of the day and go home and go to bed.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's when you look behind the curtain, you see the blue collar industry, and like a lot of blue collar industries, it's very rough. I don't know,
It
like
has its
it-
parts and moments. Yeah.
stereotypical blue collar industry.
Yeah.
And so like to be able to influence that and to love on people, and it's not hard to do it differently than I think the status quo.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
have to overthink this
Yeah,
whole
right.
thing. Just
Yep.
how do you want to be treated? Yes.
That's good.
I love this because it's a much more active, and I love what you were saying about weight, but like you have a heart for something. It's not only just having a heart for it, but it's taking and going in the opposite direction. It's an active step towards what you want to see versus
Right.
complaining about what's out there.
Mhm.
It's like it's not like just sitting around, well, I hate what's out there. It's like, why don't I go do something to make something that I would want to show people, and I'm proud to show my family, that you would be proud to have your daughters watch and know that you made that movie, and
And
like,
if it's evergreen and it's going to be there for years to come, it's like I don't want it to be trash and garbage and
Mhm.
all of that. But that's really good. I do want to segue slightly from your story and talk about a piece of that is now you're still processing and working through, and I think you know where I'm going. But throughout your time being in missions on film and traveling to these different countries, you did a lot of flying.
Mhm.
And I just want to
what Pelican case would you recommend for his coffee setup?
yeah.
1510 air.
You got to get the Air series because it's way lighter.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
I know where you're going with this. This is
Yeah.
good.
And it's as much as you want to talk about, but this is the kind of stuff that we love in addition to like your story. And I just know that for you, this has been such a big thing. And you've recently had some breakthrough with
Mhm.
anxiety specifically around flying and travel and stuff like that. And I just think it would be valuable for people listening to kind of just hear your journey with that.
No, I'd love to share. Basically, yeah, like Cole said, like I've been on multiple trips where the plane didn't come back, it went around and came back. And Kodiak, missionary Kodiak, like the short takeoff planes, I've been in multiple of those. I've been in small planes in Africa. I've been in, my wife's dad used to, fly a Cessna, and then he had a 6-seater for a while. Like I've been in planes. I've been in a ton of planes.
Mhm.
I've been all over the world in planes. And
Mm.
I was on a corporate gig a little over 3 years ago, and it was a company here in town, and they, father son, they both have their pilot's license, and kind of something cool they do. It's really sweet. It's just like a tool and die company. They'll like fly parts to people like in regionally, if there's an emergency. Because when a plant,
Oh.
like if a die goes down in a plant, that's super costly.
Right.
Because
And
now
halts production.
it halts the whole shop. Now it's like how many thousands of
water.
dollars an hour or
Yeah.
whatever that's not happening for them. So their kind of over the top service is, hey, we'll just fly it to you.
That's
Which
wild.
is like
So
super
crazy.
cool.
That's
It's
sick.
like pretty nuts. It's
That's
like,
wild.
what? You're just gonna like, you could have it here in an hour? Like, I would like,
Can you airdrop this to me?
yeah, it's like, this isn't,
Dude,
but they
I
do
just
that.
made that connection. Like literally airdropping. I'm so
Airdrop.
stupid. I
All
never
the
think
times
about
I've
it.
said it
Airdrop.
before.
Airdrop.
Oh,
But
that's
so
funny.
we go over to this like small regional airport in town, and they had a 6-seater airplane, and then we're talking shop. We're in their like personal little kind of hangar, if you will, and there's various like small little trick planes in there, and the dad and the son were there, and they both fly, and they're like, well, hey, like we could take you up in this other one, and we could film the other one. It'd be like really cool, so then we can actually see the plane in the air, not just like a shot of it taking off. They're like, oh, sure, that sounds awesome. So I went in the small like trick plane with the son, and then the dad and the other two guys went in the 6-seater plane. And we get up in the air, and it must have been kind of windy because it was pretty like, it was bouncing around a bit. But then it's like radio wouldn't work. He like couldn't find the other plane, and we were like both like in the air in the small region, like, oh,
Oh man.
like, okay, what's going on? He's keeps flagging him. He's like, I don't know where they're at. Where are they at? We're just like, oh. And it finally, like, he finds him and kicks on, like, I don't know what happened. It started working. And we're filming him and getting different shots. And to film him, he had to like tip the plane pretty far so I could actually shoot.
Shoot over.
Yeah, because
The
it was
wing
like
and
this
stuff.
small like wing,
Yeah.
like the rear wheel dragger planes.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like he had to like tilt it so I could shoot.
Right.
And so I'm filming him, and then we level off, and then like the engine starts sputtering and almost shuts off, and then the guy's like grabbing the controls, just like, what's going on? And like my heart just like went,
Yeah.
through my head,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. And it finally kind of sputtered back up, and it was fine. And I think he figured there must have gotten like air in the tank or something because we were
Oh, sure.
flying this way. But still, it was enough that it like set me off. And we turn back around, we start headed back, and he's like, hey, want to do a barrel roll? And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, man. And then he's like, dude, it'll be over in like, before you know it, it's just, it's nothing. And then, so basically it was like, there's almost no way I could say no to this guy. He was just wanted to do a barrel roll.
Yeah.
And so then, like, sure. Then we do a barrel roll, which is actually kind of cool. It was like, looking back, it was
It's wild.
It was
Sick.
but like, because I was so lightheaded from like the radio thing and then the motor thing, it just like wasn't the most helpful thing.
Yeah.
And then we're flying back, and we're almost to the, he's like, I'm done. We need to go back. He's like, okay. So we're flying back, and he's like, as we're coming into land, he's like, just so you know, these planes are kind of hard to land because of the tail, like dragger wheel. It's just a small, tiny wheel back there. It's a little, just
rough.
letting you know.
Yeah.
It's
Heads
like,
up.
okay, thanks.
Great.
So we're coming in, and and he like scrubs the landing once, and then comes back up, and then he like did get it down and landed. It's like, okay. And then, but I was like lightheaded till I went to bed that night. Just like,
Yeah.
I was like
A
feeling it.
Overload.
And, it's hot, it's cramped, it's tiny. Like, there's like it's like 2 seats. So you're like crammed in.
They're
But
pretty claustrophobic
Yeah.
cockpits.
Just
too.
a very small thing, and I got a big camera. So I'm just
What were you shooting on?
a Sony FS7 with like
yeah.
a 70 to 200. So I'm
Okay.
like this big
You're just
lens
right
and this
here.
tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I have clips of it. You know, I filmed myself like in the plane. Like it's good therapy to go watch them again.
Yeah. Exposure therapy.
Yeah, but I didn't think a whole lot of it other than I told my wife, I'm like, I feel like I like almost died today or something.
yeah.
And she's like, oh,
Kiss the ground when you get
yeah,
back.
she like loves flying, and her dad flew a bunch, and her dad's
Yeah.
let her like mess with the controls and stuff. And so like for her, it wasn't a big deal, and she didn't think much of it. And I kind of like didn't think much of it really. And then I had a job out in California in January. So that was like, I don't know, 2-3 months before that. Then I had a job out in California, and or like I had a couple flights, and I like would get anxious on the commercial flights. And then I had this that was weird, and I started noticing it. And then I had a flight out to California, and I got on the flight home. Well, like on that job, it started affecting like my corporate work, because on that job it was for the Riverside Sheriff Department, and there was a bunch of helicopters that we were filming. And I like had to tell the producer, like, I can't go up in the helicopter because I'm like starting to deal with this issue. Like I was realizing I was having problems. And he was fine because we sent another guy up for that stuff, and I shot from the ground and got cool stuff. So he worked with me, which was really cool. But that's when I started like standing up for myself and realizing something was happening. And then I was on like the flight home, and it was raining and choppy. And I mean, looking back, it really wasn't that bad of a flight, but like because of where I was,
your brain made it bigger.
My brain made it way bigger than it was. I mean, like way bigger. And I remember like I got off the plane, and I went in the bathroom in the airport, and I just like had a full on mental breakdown, just like crying, lost it, just totally lost my mind. Like I've never had that happen before. It just like totally like panic. It was a panic attack.
Yeah.
Like my heart's beating out of my chest, and my hands are purple, and I'm just like,
man.
And I remember like I called my wife and asked her to like pray for me, and she didn't know what to do or say or how to relate to me in that moment, and that like crushed me and was hard for me. And yeah, I remember just like sitting on the floor in the corner in the airport, like by the terminal thing where I was gonna have to get on one more plane to get home.
Last leg.
And I'm just like, and my poor wife is at home with 2 small kids, and she's like, you got to get home. Like you've been gone it was like an 18-day trip. It was like the longest corporate trip I'd been on in a long time. We're like, it's 18. It was like 2 weeks almost.
Man.
It was at least it was like 2-week trip. And so so that was like it. Yeah, it triggered a lot of things. I was realizing like I was traveling too much for work. I had, all those overseas trips, like I had like wanted initially, then I should have said no to some of those at the end, because like my kids were so young and it was so hard to be away. And there were some things I like learned in my life that like are coupled with the flying thing. It was like I needed to learn a couple lessons. But yeah, that was really rough. And I remember like I called like my brother-in-law, I called like my wife's like, call and talk to some people, like you got to figure out how to like get home, like go get a beer or something, calm down, like I need you. And so I remember I was like taking Tylenol and drinking beer and everything. I was like trying to like calm myself down. And I mean, I didn't take like a bunch of bad drugs, but I was prescribing stuff for myself essentially in that moment that I had, like anything to like calm myself down. And I ended up getting on the plane, and I made it home. And the plane actually ended up being fine once I was like in the air, and like, but like it was raining. Like I knew it was going to be bumpy, so it was like really hard for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the tools to combat what was going on, because I was just fighting it by myself, and I wasn't letting my wife know fully what was going on. I was trying to be tough.
You didn't want to like admit that was a problem because it's been so normal for so long.
I've done it so much, and like, what are you? If you just
that shouldn't be an issue.
Don't talk about it. Shouldn't be. You should be fine.
Yeah.
And I mean,
everybody else seemed like they were fine. So like,
yeah. Well, and to be fair, like until you really tip over and hit a wall, like it's hard to really know how far it's gone.
mm-hmm.
Like you don't actually
Yep.
see that until you've really actually gone that far.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of had to, which you don't want that for anybody.
Mm.
But I made it home, and then that was like, okay, I need like help. I need to like go to counseling or something because this is crazy. Like, I am a freelance cinematographer. I'm gonna get phone calls, and I'm gonna be on a plane again, and I can't do that again. And it's like a little blurry from there. But I met with a counselor at Berkeley, and I wish it was like immediately like solving everything, but it was very, very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my counselor he gave me a lot of tips. He's basically a lot of the things I learned is like, you can control your thoughts. I know the Bible talks about it, and it's frustrating because you're like, Romans 12, like be transformed by the renewing of your mind, test and approve. But like you can control your thoughts. And so he taught me like meditation stuff. So I do like breathing exercises with the 23rd Psalm. And he brought up a lot of things like, we started doing exposure therapy stuff. He's like, you need to like go to the airport and watch planes take off. Go sit in the airport. Like, he's like, if you don't need to travel, like you don't have to face this, but it sounds like you need to. So like, go face it. Basically, like that's the only
Let's
way.
figure it out.
The only way out is like in, basically.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, it was cool. Like I've had some conversations with my dad that I never had, or had little conversations of, but like he had like a big fear of public speaking, and that was a big thing for him. And looking back at my childhood, I'm just like, I had like kind of the same thing happen with like sailing on like a catamaran, like freaked out, but I never had to face it. I kind of, it was like, and then
that was kind of like a one-off
deep
thing.
water. Like I still kind of don't like that, but I've never had to really like, I don't have to really face
You're
that.
not a scuba diver.
Yeah, not a scuba. So, but like the airplane stuff, I have to, because and even with Noble, like I have to, like there's no way.
It's a part of work. It's
a part of work, and that's the world we live in now. Like you have to go places. Even if I lived in LA, I would still need to get on a plane and go somewhere. That's just
locations,
and you're never filming like in your backyard.
Right.
So, that was I learned a lot of things. Like when you feel trapped, that's when anxiety can arise. But one of the so like you can control your thoughts, and like thoughts, like it's a circular thing. Like that was a big thing. Like what's Satan's biggest thing he uses is lies. Like he loves lying, and like he's
good at it.
He's really good at it. And I've been, telling myself a lot of lies about a lot of things for years. And then that took over. And I think I was mad at God because I'd be like reading, on subsequent flights I'd been on, I'd be like reading the Bible on the plane and still be hit, like basically having a panic attack. And I'm like, God, why aren't you helping me? I'm like praying to you. I'm like literally reading your word. But it was like I was asking for a miracle because I was like listening to so many lies before getting on the plane that like to combat that would literally be a miracle, because now you're competing with everything. And
that's good.
So there is work to get past anxiety. Like just praying for a magic pill isn't the right.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like it takes work ahead of time, and actually like putting in the effort. Like you were saying, like don't, like, not that God can't do it, but it's often, and we've talked about this before, but it's kind of like that idea where God can fix something in an instant, but he often wants to teach us, his ways through patience and like through grace. So to be able to be filling your time on the front end, like and this is kind of, with that, it's like, as believers, I think we can very easily fall into a mindset and a rhythm of only playing defense
Yeah.
and just being like, I'm just gonna, go to this when I get attacked. I get attacked by the enemy or whatever, instead of filling my mind with scripture and filling my mind with the good word. Jesus came to bring like a sword of truth, like, and that is the only offensive weapon that's listed. I think it's like in Ephesians where it talks about the armor of God. Everything else is, the
Defense.
breastplate and the helmet and stuff. Like, that's your armor. The only offensive thing is the word. And like you were saying, like it almost feels counterintuitive to be like, I'm reading God's word, but it's like instilling that like in our hearts, and like,
It's got to be deeper than just this like Band-Aid in the moment.
exactly. It's almost like God's a vending machine. It's like, I need anxiety relief, like E4 scripture.
Please,
so
right now.
Instead of like,
I punched in the cheat code.
Instead of, and that was kind of like the
up, down, left, right.
Come on, yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like the sermon series that we were at with Berkeley, like, and that's so true. And Craig Rochelle wrote a book, Winning the War in Your Mind, and he talks about all of that stuff too, where it's like, you have to be listening to what God says about you. If you really want to see your thought patterns change, like, first recognizing what your thought patterns are, and then working very hard and taking stock and analyzing, and then shifting your thought patterns, taking our thoughts captive.
That is taking control. Yeah,
exactly. So, and then, which is awesome because you've been on that journey, and it's so cool because that speaks to that idea where it's like, I prayed for this and God didn't do it. And it's like, well, you prayed for it one time. Like, God wants to
only
bring
like
you
right when it was happening.
Exactly. Instead of like, no, this is a journey. And that, like, I feel like the vice of anxiety and flying kind of came at like a moment of that experience. And so that's a little bit different in that. But I think a lot of times, just to speak to people listening, like, a lot of our vices,
they're more subtle than that.
They're subtle, and they happen over a long period of time. So don't necessarily expect them to just be instantly fixed. Like, if a vice has gotten there over a long period of time and has been habitual, especially, don't expect it to just go away. Like, it also takes time to undo all of that, because you're stuck in the same ruts and all of that stuff. But
I think what I was like, part of why I bring up some of the other things, like the sailing thing or the deep water thing, it's like that event happened in the little plane, but I've had this mind, like, I've been telling, like, I always go to like the worst scenario, and I have, I think I read in a book once that, like, misuse of your imagination is like sinning, basically. And I have a really good imagination, and like, I'm in the creative space, and I just like, I imagine the worst, and I imagine, like, I could see the plane crashing, whereas some people can't like see that. Like, I don't even know
a visual guy.
I don't even know how you can't see it, but like, I can like visually see it happening.
Yeah.
And so like, I see the worst, and I envision, and I've had that pattern in it, and it was like, so like that moment brought it out, but like, looking back, I'm like, oh man, like, I have had like this stream of thought that isn't where it needs to be.
I have these ruts that are there for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I've like burned them in. And I will say, for anybody listening to the podcast that is a business owner, is independent, or kind of pushing, like, that's I don't know the stats. It's at least 50% more likely to have anxiety or depression or something. Like, it's like way higher. Like, and that's not like a joke statistic. It's like real. And I've experienced that, because I think if I would have stayed at my other job, and I mean, again, if it would have been a good environment, all these things like that could cause anxiety, but I maybe never would have gotten to this point.
Sure.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I would have, but I think there is that sense of when you are, because now if I don't get on a plane, it's my company. And that was another thing my counselor talked about. Anxiety is if you feel trapped, like if you have to do that,
forced into
if you
cornered.
have no choice.
Yeah.
And so I had like a flight to Colorado, you know, I'd been on a handful, you know, a couple flights, but I was like really having trouble still early on. Like I couldn't eat before, like sick to my stomach, like for like a week, like, you know, all the other problems with that bathroom issues. I mean, like
Yeah.
like my whole body was shutting down a
Mhm.
week or so before flight would happen. Like it was, so then like I'm not a good husband, I'm not a good dad. It's like affecting everything. But I feel like if I don't go, then I'm not going to get that $1,000 check or whatever for this film gig I have to do. So now I'm not providing for my family. But you
Right.
see where like the thought
Yeah.
pattern
Yep.
just like
It all trickles back.
completely sinks you.
Yeah. Yep.
And my counselor was like, do you have to take this? Like, do you actually have to go to Colorado or wherever? Like, do you like, what happens if you don't?
Mhm. What's the alternative?
And I was like, I don't make, you know, I was like $1,400 or whatever. I don't make this, I don't get paid. He's like, okay, will you never work for that person ever again? I don't know, you know. And I was like, oh, honestly, this is the first time I've ever worked with them. I don't know, you know. I mean, he's like, okay, so that's a maybe, you know. You don't know, you know, will you get kicked out of your house if you don't go do this thing? No. Like I got enough money in the bank that I'm not getting kicked out of my house. Like I'm not going to miss payments on anything. Like no, 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 you know,
Yep.
like, and then he's like, did you choose to do this? Did you say yes to doing this? Or did someone make you say yes? And I said, no, like I chose to do it. And I think like my personality has this responsibility. Like if I say yes, I have to, but he was kind of freeing me from that and saying, if you can let go of that, then, and just realize like, I no, I'm choosing to do this. I want to do this. Then it's like a different mindset. So
Right.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
Gets you out of the I have to. It's
I have
cornered.
to. Now I'm cornered. Now I'm a trapped, you know, trapped animal.
Yeah,
you know,
yep.
like I'm gonna attack, and
Absolutely.
so that's good. But then this was another big thing that I learned is anxiety is in the future and in the past, and it rarely comes from the present. And so I just became intensely focused on being present wherever I was. And just like fighting for that, like fighting my mind constantly. Like I'd wake up fighting for the present. Like, cause I just love thinking about the future and imagining things. Like, just like constantly. But so that's one key that's been probably one of the bigger ones that I've been like focusing on. It's just like, just enjoy where you're at and what you're doing and like who you're talking to, and just stop imagining all the possible outcomes of something. It's just like too much.
Right.
And then like for me, like I imagine like, you know, the next plane ride, and then it's going to be bumpy, and so it's like, stop, like that's the future. Like
Right.
you don't even know. Like you might get sick the day before and have COVID or who knows what. You might not even go.
Right.
Like
That's true.
Like I had one trip where I didn't know I was getting on the plane until like 6:30 in the morning because I had to get a COVID test result back or something from somebody. I didn't even know if I was going. So it's like you don't even know.
Why freak yourself out?
And like, what's the scripture verse for that? It's like there's a bunch of them.
I'm thinking of like when Jesus says tomorrow has this enough.
Don't worry about tomorrow.
Don't worry about tomorrow, and
Enough
like
trouble
your life
for
is
itself.
a mist. Like it's a vapor.
Yeah.
Like
Today has enough trouble of its own.
Yeah, like you don't even know. Like you're making plans to go like work in this city or that. Like you don't even know.
Oh
like,
yeah.
There's multiple things,
Yes.
and if you like know that, it's like okay, I it's not like bad to like try to do good and try to like I can't worry about Noble's future. I can't worry about all these things because then you're just gonna miss everything that's happening.
Well, the future is like the Lord's business. You know what I mean? Like we're workers. You know what I mean? Like God is the one who's you know, like we make our plans, but He directs our steps, and like
that's Proverbs 16. I read that this morning.
Yeah, like
yeah,
like that's exactly it. Like we have it's above our pay grade to worry about the future, right? Like and that's really where we take God's burden.
It's good.
We put it on ourselves, and that's where it's gonna crush us if we let it.
But then I had this flight probably half a year ago that was kind of a good nail in the coffin for me. So I guess like to show victory, to like explain victory. So it's been like 3 years. Uh yeah, about 3 years or so since this. And I've never not gotten on a plane, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And it's not because it's always been a sunny day with no wind. It's been you know, kind of the one. It's been like at least 40, 50 planes since that I've been on. Like if you count all the legs.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, it went from like I would take like a Benadryl, Dramamine, like trying to calm myself down, not being able to eat breakfast. Just like not being able to drink coffee.
You get sweaty palms.
Yeah, like sweaty palms, like you name it, pit in my stomach, taking, Imodium, like everything. Like there was like a drug regimen basically.
Slew.
And like it was like frustrating. And I'm, like praise God I didn't have to do antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, and I haven't. I know some people do, and that's fine. But I was able to, just like all the mind stuff and all the exposure, and just like I would go sit in the airports. I made a fun thing. I'd take my kids. I'd go watch airplanes take off. There's a really cool airplane park, actually. It's kind of neat.
I go there sometimes.
It's fun.
It's
It's like kind of fun, actually. So I'd take my kids. We'd buy Wendy's and we'd sit over there and watch planes take off.
Yeah.
And just do that over and over and over and over. I still go probably once or twice before a flight, even though I'm like doing way, way better. I still like I'm like, I got to keep winning this and not letting it, I can't go back.
Playing offense.
And I'm just going to keep playing offense. And
it's great.
I started telling people, like my small group, and like my business partner knows about it. And like my parents, like you just like let people in. And then I started hearing stories.
I was just going to say now a bunch of people who listen to the podcast. I'm just
yeah. And I'm sure there's been people like in my men's group that are like, yeah, like
me too.
I was having a rough time like on it. And I'm like, well, good thing you got on it. Like that's really good.
Yeah.
But like kind of a nail in the coffin flight for me. And then like I still get like sweaty palms on planes if they start bouncing around, but like I'm like way better than I was.
It's also like semi-normal. I feel like everyone's kind of.
I'm like everyone like has the come to Jesus flights. It's like that's not abnormal.
Or just you let your mind start thinking about I am how high in the
air?
Like
it's like everyone's sleeping, and then like it's kind of one of those moments where like everyone starts kind of taking off their headphones and looking around, and like you can feel it. You can feel the
you feel
energy.
But there was a flight where
it's a good thing you feel something still.
That's normal.
Psychopath.
That's normal, like human, whatever. But there was like a flight that it was like Dallas or something, and it like took off, and we like level out, and then he never like goes any higher, and it's like, well, that's weird. And then he comes over the radio after a little while, and he's like, we're having something with the right engine or whatever isn't something. I was like, oh boy.
Here we go.
Engine. Not good.
Yeah.
You start imagining pictures of it smoking and
just blows up, falls off the plane.
It was like instant, like I was like back on the like trick plane, like
Donnie Darko is just gonna happen,
and it's just like, oh. But like I started doing like breathing exercises, like looking up, like, and because I'd done the work, like I was able to get my mind back down. And then we started doing like laps in the plane, and they just kept doing like circles. And the guy like wasn't communicating at all. He's like kind of a bad pilot in that regard. It's like, can you just tell people a little more, But they kept starting. I think they finally said like we're gonna land back in Dallas, And I had like this moment on the plane where I was like looking out the window, staring at the ground. And I'm just like, God, if this actually like crashed, I'm okay with it. And I like actually got to that point,
wow,
which is kind of weird and sounds like maybe a little dramatic or something, but like I had to like go there. And
for sure.
I remember looking over, and there was like an older couple like holding hands, and they were obviously like nervous, And we like we land, we get, and another, I started listening to a bunch of music. Like that was something. There's like a bunch of little things I started doing. Like,
Sure.
Like, and not to mention, I got like so many tangents with this. There's
It's
like
all
so
good.
many layers.
It's all
But
good.
like I started listening to, like I was able to like on the plane like put music on, like think clearly enough
Yeah.
to put positive music on after that moment,
Mhm.
and just like, get beyond that moment and realize like
You were in
it's fine.
control.
It was like,
I was in control finally.
it's like training and practicing actually works and
Yeah,
like
it does
prepares you
work.
for something.
Yeah. And we landed, and then we had to go get on another plane, and I was like sitting there doing like work emails, waiting for the next plane. I'm like, I would have freaked
Mhm.
if that would have happened before.
Yeah.
I would have lost my mind. Like, there's no way I would have gotten on that plane.
Wow.
But like, I did, and I was actually just like doing emails, and I was fine. And I noticed we got on the plane, there was like the old couple wasn't there anymore. Like, there was other people that took them out at the knees, like they weren't there.
Mm.
They like didn't get on it, and it ended up being like a rather bumpy flight. There was like a whole line of like thunderclouds like the whole way, and we like it was, but I was like good, and I actually have like comforted multiple people on planes now.
Wow.
Do you feel like your relationship with God has been deepened through this?
Yeah, that's definitely like, I definitely like rely on him more because of it, and like go to him more because of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and that's so cool. I mean, that's just God using your story to minister to others. Like
mhm.
God's in the business of redemption, and that's the power of like a testimony, essentially.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Praise God, man.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
it's good. Like, I wish it was just like completely gone, but
One day.
I've learned a lot, and yeah.
You're human enough to know you still need to rely on God for
Yeah, it's
Right.
like, it's
something
not
you
just
struggle
like-
with.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's different things for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So
And we were
that's-
talking about that actually at Berkeley yesterday, of how it's like, that is also, again, like another lie that the enemy speaks, is like, oh, I kind of got this figured out. And then you kind of stop relying on God, and
Mhm.
then you are right back to square one again. And it's
Mhm.
like,
And then it's like worse than
yeah.
yeah, because
And I think that I kind of think about the passage in scripture where it's like the demons leave and then they come back and find the house like well kept. I might be implying, or I can't remember exactly what that scripture is, but
yeah.
Here
that's
comes
kind of
the
what I
heresy.
think
No, I'm just
about.
kidding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's kind of what I think about. But it's like the offense might just look different. I think there's different levels of that where it's like it doesn't need to be as intensive, but the heart posture is still there. One of my favorite passages in scripture is Deuteronomy 8, where it's God talking about bringing the Israelites out of slavery from Egypt. And he's like, do not forget the Lord your God that
Don't
brought you.
forget, yeah.
And as well as like, it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth. Like, and then the last part of that chapter is like, woe to you. Like, if you forget your God and like bow down to other idols, like,
Mhm.
I am the one true God that like did this for you. Like,
Mm.
don't forget me, that I brought you here. When you settle down and build fine houses and have gold and silver and like all this stuff, it's like, don't forget.
Yeah, don't forget.
And
yeah.
then he's still there every time they do those things anyways, which is so
Which is
that-
yes.
crazy.
we're gonna go down that
Yeah,
rabbit hole,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
Mhm.
man, I'm out of coffee.
I have been, and we went a little long today, but
It's so
worth
good.
it.
We'll have to have you on for
I
a
just
part
finished.
Hey,
Hey, so we didn't cheat.
we didn't
There you
cheat. Let's go.
No, thank you so much for
Yeah.
for telling a little bit of your story. I know we
Yeah.
could talk all day, honestly. It was really encouraging, and I've known you just through other people, and it's just so cool to talk more and get to know a little bit more of like
Mhm.
who Adam Gregory is
Yeah.
behind everything that I've seen and known. So
Thanks for
Mhm.
having me on, guys.
Yeah.
This is
dude,
awesome.
absolutely. Thanks again to Josh at Local Legend for letting us record here.
Mhm.
Thank you again to Steven and Quickwater Coffee
Yes.
for sponsoring. We'll have to go get a new bag because
Yep.
we knocked out the Zambia.
Tune in next episode to figure out what we're drinking for the month of
Yes.
February. And go check out Adam's stuff. Go check out Noble
Definitely.
Story Co. Yeah, they're doing some really awesome stuff, some great work, wanting to
Cool.
make things that are beautiful
You-
and good.
You can invest in their company on WeTransfer, right? Is that still open or is that closed?
That's close.
You
But
cannot invest.
but-
in
if you want to write a bigger check, just call me.
Should we link your Cash App and your Venmo?
Get random cash apps.
Zelle, Adam Gregory.
They'll need a K1 for that too. So. No, but yeah, we'll link your stuff, and guys, just stay in tune with what they're doing. They're producing some really cool stuff, and I'm sure you'll be seeing their movies shortly. So
awesome.
absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.